Looking for samples and data? Register with Fingenious service to discover solutions for early discovery. Availability service offers researchers easy access to all the high-quality public biobank samples, data and cohorts. Through Availability service, you can access free ICD-10 catalogues to browse biobank sample collections at aggregate level, as well as browse through cohorts with an easy-to-use visual platform. The service lets you search and filter all available samples and data from all biobank data repositories, as well as biobank cohorts suitable for the right research need. Request service lets you conduct feasibility and access requests to plan your studies smarter with less effort and wider outreach. It speeds up your access to the needed samples, data or study participants for clinical studies. Both feasibility and access requests can be made simply by logging in to Fingenious service and filling out your request, streamlining the whole process. Fingenious service offers unique benefits for every stage of drug development and biomedical research. Find the right solutions for you and register at fingenious.fi.
In other words, how to use Fingenious for early discovery. And the best expert in the world to educate us on that is Dr. Johanna Mäkelä, FINBB's Director of Research and Services. Welcome, Johanna.
Thank you very much. So it's my honor to be here and present to you today the real-life collaboration models that we have done at the biobanks. And as Marko mentioned that he is emotional. I'm not that emotional, I'm more of an excited now to be here and be able to present you, so I'm not going to cry or anything. I'm just superly overexcited to tell you about these real-life examples that we have made. Let's see. Yes, so my topic is real-life collaboration models in early discovery and the case examples from biobank studies. So the examples that I'm going to show you are real-life examples, so something that we have already done. And what I'm also going to show you is our new services and how they have utilized these kind of research projects that we have conducted at the biobanks. As Marko already mentioned, we have started from scratch. But now we are collaborating with researchers from all over the world. We have served over 200 researchers and research groups throughout the world, both from academia and industry. And all this has happened during pandemic, which I think it's quite a great achievement, since I, for example, have never even met these people that I have worked with, only via Zoom or Teams we have only met. So I think it's a quite great achievement for the whole biobank network to be able to conduct these kind of studies internationally. And then, what the Fingenious can offer for researchers. We have the availability services, which covers the availability of samples, data, and study participants. We have the ICD-10 catalog, and we have the cohorts tool. I will show you this in very brief, in more detail, how they work and what kind of things you can discover from there. Then we have the request services. So you can actually deep dive into feasibility requests or make an access request regarding the biobank samples and data and patients. And then coming off hot from the press, we have the recruit services. Maybe quite unique what Finland can offer you. So we will offer the targeted study participant recruitment services, but also the opportunity to collect patient-reported outcomes with our Fingenious services. And the way the system works is that first you can conduct availability services, you can browse through the ICD-10 catalogs or the cohorts, you can move on to the feasibility requests or access requests, and then move on to the recruitment of study participants or collecting patient-reported outcomes. And all this can be done as sort of like a fast-track services designed specifically for your needs and for your research project needs. And then, of course, we do this together, we collaborate, we build the services with you. So we want to collaborate with everyone. And I think that the ecosystem partner catalog is a great example of that collaboration ongoing. Then, am I just showing you fancy slides, or have we actually achieved something during last year? So during 2021, we conducted over 200 biobank research projects in the Finnish Biobanks. About half of them were oncology-related projects. I think these are really, really great figures, and you can see the growth rates are growing in each and every one of the biobanks. You see that the number of feasibility requests, it increased in all of the public biobanks, as well as the number of access requests. So I think that I could quite safely say, starting from these figures, that actually collaboration is the key. So by collaborating, we can achieve more than we could do it just by one biobank at a time. So collaboration is probably one of the key successes to these nice figures that we can show here. Figures are always nice, but what is most important is that there are actually scientific results coming from these projects. So we are not just giving access to samples and data and study participants, but there are actually scientific results coming from these projects. And last year, there were over 200 publications made based on these. And they were actually, some of them published in some quite nice journals, such as the Nature, which I think that can be topped as a quite high-ranked medical journal. And we are very proud of the achievements that the Finnish Biobanks have been able to help researchers to make these kind of discoveries that have been published throughout the world. So now I'm going to show you the real-life collaboration models and how our services have helped these research projects. And the first example will be the Fingenious study, which you probably all have at least heard something about. So the Fingenious is the largest biobank research project in Finland, and probably in the Europe as well. And there all biobanks are involved in that Fingenious project as partners, and then there are 13 great pharma companies taking part in that project as well. So far, about 500,000 of samples have been collected, so we are ahead of the schedule, and genome data has been analyzed from almost 400,000 participants. And this is one great example of a research cohort that will be illustrated in our cohort services, where you can browse through and search by defining specific search criteria and browse through collections from one biobank or collections from multiple biobanks. For example, if you would like to make an access request to the Fingenious genomic data cohort that has been returned to the biobanks, you could search the cohort from our cohort services and apply access to that, or make a feasibility request regarding that, and then maybe link some clinical data, for example, from hospital biobanks to these genomic data, or conduct a reconstructing study based on genotype or phenotype information. Next case example that I'm going to show you is a collaboration that we did with Adaptive Biotechnologies, and it was related to the autoimmune diseases and T-cell signatures. So what this company was interested in was autoimmune disorders, and they wanted to utilize biobank samples for the development and validation of immunosequencing-based clinical testing for autoimmune disorders, specifically, for example, IBD. And the services that they used here, the Fingenious services, were that they first started the availability search by using the ICD-10-based catalog. So they logged into the Fingenious, made the search, see how many of samples they could find and from which kind of patients. They were happy with the initial results and proceeded into the feasibility request phase, and then conducted access request to access the samples and the data. The samples were then shipped to Adaptive Biotechnologies, where they were analyzed, and data was accessed to them. And after that comes probably the most interesting part of the biobanking activities, so the data return. Meaning that the samples that were shipped to the Adaptive Biotechnologies, they were analyzed, and the data was returned to the biobanks. And from the biobanks, another research project can apply an access to that data. So the biobanks work as a library where you borrow a sample or borrow a book, write a new chapter to it, and return it to the biobank, to the library for further use, which is one great example of the collaboration that the biobanks are doing. Then we were also very happy that they were happy with our services, so the customer was happy with the collaboration with us. They were happy with the samples, and they were also happy with the collaboration. And I can say that it was very mutual to say that we were very excited to collaborate them with this big project as well. And then my last example comes from Gyroscope Therapeutics, where we did study complement factor I gene variant in dry AMD patients. And here, 900 dry AMD patients were identified from the biobanks, and their samples were sequenced to detect complement factor I gene variant. And the results of the analyzed samples and the clinical data was used as a basis for targeted recruitment into a clinical trial. First, the researchers checked the availability just using the ICD-10 catalog. Quite soon it became evident that the ICD-10 catalog wasn't as precise as needed for this project. So they moved on to the deep dive feasibility to actually gain insight on the dry AMD patient population. Then they did the access request phase, and in this case, we provided the all-inclusive services. So the samples were not shipped to the customer, but we actually analyzed them with our collaborators here in Finland, and then just provided the access to the analyzed data regarding those. The next phase would have been very interesting to perform with them. So based on that analyzed sequencing data, we would have then recontacted and asked them to participate into a clinical trial. But those of you who have worked with clinical trials know that sometimes these things don't happen as you plan. So what happened here is that unfortunately we didn't find enough patients to actually start a clinical trial. So unfortunately that happened, but even that was very useful knowledge for the customer because they were able to lose fast. We were able to say that, okay, now we couldn't find enough patients. If we could have found enough patients, they would have used our recruit services where they could have had a sort of like with one glimpse cover the entire Finland and see how the sites are doing with recruiting, how they are consenting, who have visited already the sites, and how are the different sites in progressing in the recruitment and in the follow-up of the project. And this was actually my last case example, and now my take-home messages for you is that the Fingenious services offer the researchers an access to the Finnish Biobank data, samples, and patients. And we are now having these wonderful new services that complement the services that we already have. And the new services are Cohorts, Recruit, and Fingenious Ecosystem Partners catalog. And we are not just talking here, we are also doing. So we have a real-life collaboration models with proven track record in place. And please go and register to fingenious.fi. Thank you. And we will be here at Business Finland booth for the entire HIMSS. Thank you.
Thank you, Johanna. That's truly exciting. That's like the future of drug development already being reality in Finland. Again, if there are any questions by the audience here, you can also just raise your hand and ask for the microphone. And the Menti wall still continues. And any questions there? We have one question.
For this feasibility service for more than a decade, and I think that Finland is the first, and it's really fantastic to see it now. Thank you for that.
Thank you. And to the audience in Zoom who may not have heard the first part of Mia's comment, it was that just congratulating on the feasibility service, which is really wonderful. Fully agree. There we have one hand raised.
Hi, Riku Rinteöppi here. I just saw a video of the UK Biobank, their 20th anniversary. So how would you compare? I think that is kind of the older sibling, but how would you compare these two?
Yeah. Well, I think that UK Biobank is a great biobank, and it sets certainly it can give us a direction where to go to. So they have quite nice processes in place. But what differs us from them is the recruitment of patients. So we have the patients, and we can recruit them into clinical trials, something that the UK Biobank cannot, and that is something where we aim to be very good at in the future.
Great. Now we have a couple of Menti questions and one re-emphasizing of the question made. So, but actually two comments that relate to the same thing more or less. So what's your business model? How do you turn this into actual business cases? How does FINBB make business out of this?
Well, of course, we try to serve the academic researchers with as low cost as possible. But of course, the biobanking activities, they will need resources. And then when it comes to the business side, of course, we want to make these kind of research projects happen. But of course, we will take into the account that all the investments that the public sector has made into the collecting, for example, the biobank samples. So there are huge investments made already in the public to collect actually the consent and the samples. And of course, but we want to collaborate and build partnerships that last.
And I guess more directly, if a pharmaceutical company comes to you and says, we'd like you to help us find patients for a clinical study, you would then just invoice them for that service or for each patient?
Yes, currently. And of course, we build the models based on every research project's needs. So as we know, there are not two projects that are similar. So we made these customarily based on the client's needs.
Thank you, Johanna.